Hello everyone, and welcome to another video made by me, and this time about HMS Belfast, a town-class cruiser of the Royal Navy. Now, the bigger legend than Belfast is HMS Sheffield, which had a better war record than from hunting Bismarck to the Battle of the Barents Sea, but that's for a hypothetical future video. But anyways, sit around and enjoy, and I will tell you a story. Early 1930s was where Britain first learned of the construction of the Japanese Mogami-class light cruisers, and they wanted a counter to it because they surpassed the British cruisers of the same type. And so, the appropriate response that London had made was that in order to make a worthy adversary to the Mogami-class light cruisers, they had to approach the limits imposed by international treaties. The Japanese cruiser Mogami also made other nations to break the limits of the Washington Naval Treaty, but this video is not about Mogami. In 1934, the British shipyards began construction of what would become the town-class cruisers because they were all named after towns. Further improvements of the project led to the construction of the two most advanced ships in the town class, Belfast and Edinburgh. Yes, it is pronounced as Edinburgh because the city is the capital of Scotland, and if you think that's not how I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know you spoke Scottish Gaelic and were a linguist. Both Belfast and Edinburgh had better armament than the other town class with a much more rational layout. By many parameters, they were both on par with other nations' light cruisers, but were still inferior to the Mogami class by main guns, 12 against 15 guns individually, not turret count. But when the British tried to make better artillery systems to try and cope with it, like experimenting with quad turrets but abandoned the idea quickly because of internal turret space problems and inconvenient firing, so they stuck with triple turrets. And also to fix the problem of powder gases messing with the shell trajectories when all barrels fire in unison, they moved the middle gun backwards a little. HMS Belfast was commissioned in 1939, but 4 months after she was commissioned, the ship had to return to dock. HMS Belfast had hit a sea mine, which breached a hole in the hull that also broke the keel, which was almost impossible to fix out at sea. But it was a miracle that the ship was still afloat, but at the repair docks they had to literally reconstruct the ship again due to the damage. Over the course of the modernization process on HMS Belfast, she received a radar system, an upgraded gunfire control system, and the beam had to be increased a meter wider to increase stability. The cruiser Belfast had gotten better armament from before she was modernized during 1942 and sent back into service in 1943. The length is around 613 feet or around 186 meters, beam is around 66 feet or around 20 meters, and the draft is below 23 feet or around 7 meters below the waterline, and the total displacement is 14,900 tons. The main guns are 4 triple Mark 27 turrets with a caliber of 6 inches or 152.4 millimeters. The long-range AA artillery are 6 of twin-gun Mark 16 guns on coaxial mounts and a caliber of 4 inches or 101.6 millimeters. The small caliber artillery, AA artillery, are 2 Vickers Mark 6A 8-barreled pom-pom guns, and yes, the name is as goofy as it sounds, with a caliber of 1.6 inches or 40.64 millimeters. 4 single-barreled and 5 coaxial Oerlikon mounts with a caliber of 0.8 inches or 20.32 millimeters, and 2 triple TR4 torpedo tubes with a caliber of 21 inches or 533.4 millimeters. The power plants are 4 Parsons turbo-geared turbines and 4 Admiralty boilers with a horsepower output of 80,000 horsepower, and the maximum speed reached about 31 knots after the modernization of 1942. And the cruising range is about 12,100 miles or 19,633 kilometers at 12 knots. The main belt armor is 4.5 inches or 114.3 millimeters thick. Deck armor is 2 to 3 inches or 50.8 to 76.2 millimeters thick. Main turret armor is 2 to 4 inches or 58.8 to 101.6 millimeters thick. And 3 Supermarine Walrus aircraft were on board to carry out recon and fire adjustments. During the repairs, the damaged power plants had to be completely replaced, and what was different about it was put in a different location on the ship and the power produced of that new power plant. And to oppose the German U-boats, Belfast was fitted with a hydroacoustic system, a load of depth charges, as well as depth charge airstrikes from aircraft, which the Walrus aircraft were also able to do. When the ship was commissioned in 1939, it had a peacetime crew of 761 both officers and crew members, but that was not enough to operate all 4 of the turrets the ship had, and then in war, the crew numbers increased to 950 crew members. And the crew mostly slept on hammocks above tables and stuff, as this was British naval tradition that traces back about 300 years, where they ate under where they slept. Sometimes, when a sea mine exploded, it stunned the fish, and when they floated to the surface, and if the crew could, they would have picked that up, as fresh fish is usually better to eat than fish packed in freezers, but the food in the Royal Navy wasn't so diverse anyways. Also, there were minimal casualties aboard HMS Belfast, but after the repairs and modernization of the ship, Belfast became the flagship of the 10th Cruiser Squadron, which was based at Scapa Flow and the main service waters of the Norwegian Sea and Barents Sea. The two best cruisers of the British Navy, Belfast, who hit a mine and then had to go under repairs for almost 3 years and then returned to the service, and meanwhile HMS Edinburgh fulfilled the duties of both cruisers. She escorted convoys, supported allied ships, and fought against enemy ships, submarines, and aircraft, but Edinburgh was sunk carrying gold as cargo. Well then, Belfast returns from the repair docks and takes the torch, completing what couldn't have been finished from HMS Edinburgh. And when Belfast came into service, she was assigned a vital task that had already been performed for like 300 years already, which is defend shipping routes and manage potential threats so the transport ships can get by safely. Belfast had escorted Arctic convoys in the USSR and supported ships carrying priceless cargo. And one mission Belfast was on was a sea battle at North Cape in 1943, where the battleship Scharnhorst and Company 5 destroyers were. Their task was to destroy a convoy, and then the convoy support ships, which included Belfast, were tasked with supporting that convoy. The British then attacked the enemy, never paused, never thought about how to show their courage or how to perform heroic acts, but they fulfilled their duty. They did know that the German heavy ships would destroy them, but they didn't care, as their mission is to defend the convoy. And for 8 hours, Belfast and other cruisers chased and attacked Scharnhorst, and then the main sea fleet, which had HMS Duke of York, came to help, and with the power of friendship, no I'm kidding, but they did win that battle. And in the early 1970s, Belfast was the only remaining British cruiser that fought in the Second World War. And she was planned to be broken up for scrap, but due to the efforts of veterans and those who were concerned about naval history, the ship was saved and turned to a museum ship, and now she sits to this day near Tower Bridge and London Bridge. And if you want to look at the ship from Google Maps, then look for London Bridge, and thus you'll find Belfast. And that, my friends, is the end of this video, and you can go away now. You can give me video suggestions of what warships I can make a video about, and I might, hypothetically, on purpose, make a video about it. But thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.